A pyrotechnician had prepared everything for the 4th of July fireworks show. But when the fireworks display began, something went very wrong. And what appeared in the sky changed his life forever. A miracle of the Virgin Mary that began with a technical malfunction during the display. But before we continue, leave a comment saying where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. I would love to see how far the miracles of the Virgin Mary are reaching. Do you know that kind of person who works their entire life doing the same thing? That professional who has seen it all, who knows every detail of the job, who knows what can go right and what can go wrong. Raymond was that kind of person. 60 years old, 20 years working with fireworks, hands rough from carrying boxes, assembling structures, connecting wires. You know that old pickup truck that makes noise when it starts? Raymond had one of those, full of equipment, full of tools. He wasn't the kind of person who stood out much. He wasn't one to talk too much. He wasn't one to brag. He did the job, got paid, and left, just like that. But there was one thing Raymond always did before every show, one thing he learned from his mother. Around Raymond's neck, hanging from a thin silver chain, there was a medal of the Virgin Mary, small, worn by time. The image was already somewhat faded from how often Raymond rubbed his finger over it. That medal was a gift from his mother. She gave it to him when Raymond was in his early 20s. At the time, he was just starting out in the pyrotechnics business. "Son, before every job, you hold this medal and ask for protection," his mother said to him that day. "Ask for yourself and ask for the people who will be watching." Raymond had been doing that for 20 years, every single time, without exception. But you know what's interesting? Raymond did it automatically, like brushing his teeth, like putting on a seatbelt. He did it because his mother taught him. He did it because it became a habit, but he didn't think much about it. Raymond wasn't someone who went to church. He didn't pray at home. He didn't talk about God or about faith. His mother was very religious, very devoted. But Raymond was more practical. He believed in work. He believed in effort. He believed that if you do things right, things work out, just like that. His mother had passed away a few years earlier, and Raymond missed her, especially when he held the medal before the shows. In those moments, he remembered her face, her smile, her voice, a quick memory. Then he went back to work. Do you know someone like that? Someone who has faith but doesn't practice it? Who believes in something deep down but doesn't think much about it? Raymond was like that, and his life went on normally. Show after show, event after event, year after year, until that 4th of July arrived. July 4th is the most important day of the year for a pyrotechnician in the United States. It's Independence Day. Everyone wants fireworks. Everyone wants that show in the sky. It's tradition. It's celebration. It's the day when the entire country looks up. For Raymond, July 4th was the day with the most work, and also the day with the most pressure. That year, Raymond was going through a difficult phase. Work had slowed down a lot in the past few months. Fewer events, fewer contracts, less money coming in. But Raymond never cut corners on quality. He never cut corners on safety. If he needed better equipment, he bought it. If he needed top-of-the-line materials, he bought them. That was good for the clients. But it was bad for Raymond's wallet. The debts started piling up little by little, one credit card here, one loan there, one overdue bill somewhere else. Raymond didn't talk about this with anyone. He kept it to himself, handled it alone, or at least tried to. That July 4th, Raymond was hired to do the city's fireworks show. But it wasn't just any event. It was the biggest event of the year. The mayor would be there, important sponsors, celebrities of all kinds. Expectations were extremely high. Everything had to be perfect, every detail, every second, every color in the sky. Anything outside the plan could become the biggest embarrassment of Raymond's career. A failure in front of so many important people? It would be the end. It was a chance to show his work, a chance to get more contracts, a chance to improve his financial situation. Raymond prepared everything carefully. He spent days organizing, building the structures, positioning the fireworks racks, programming the sequence, testing the equipment. 6 fireworks racks, everything programmed to activate at specific moments. A beautiful sequence, colorful, synchronized. Raymond knew that job like the back of his hand. He had done similar shows dozens of times. He knew exactly what to do. On the day of the event, Raymond arrived early. He checked everything again, once, twice, 3 times. The crowd started to arrive. Entire families, couples holding hands, groups of friends, elderly people in lawn chairs, everyone excited, everyone waiting for the show. Raymond looked at that crowd and felt the weight of responsibility. Thousands of people there, trusting him, expecting a beautiful show, expecting a special night. And Raymond knew everything had to go right. For the city, for the spectators, and also for himself, for the bills he needed to pay, for the contracts he needed to secure. The sun began to set. The sky grew darker. Showtime was approaching. Raymond went to the control area, checked the equipment one last time. Everything seemed to be in order. Then he did what he always did. He took the Virgin Mary medal hanging around his neck. He kissed it. "Protection for me and for the people who are here," Raymond murmured softly. Then he tucked the medal back inside his shirt, took a deep breath, looked up at the sky already dark, and got ready to begin. The show would last about 15 minutes, a fireworks sequence Raymond had carefully planned. A lighter beginning, a more intense middle, a grand finale. Everything programmed, everything timed just right. Raymond gave the command to start. The first fireworks went up, beautiful, colorful. The crowd made that sound of admiration. Woo! Oh my God, beautiful. Amazing! People pointing at the sky. Raymond smiled. It was working. Minutes passed. Fireworks continued to rise, red, white, and blue, the colors of the American flag. After all, it was Independence Day. One after another, the crowd applauding, children pointing at the sky. Raymond stayed focused, monitoring everything, checking the equipment. Then it happened. Suddenly, without any warning, 6 fireworks racks activated at the same time. They were supposed to activate at different moments, spread throughout the show. But there was a technical malfunction during the display, and everything activated at the same time, all at once. Raymond saw it happening, and his heart froze. Everything going up at the same time, sparks everywhere, one after another, without stopping. No, 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 Raymond said, trying to understand what was happening. But there was nothing he could do. The show was already in motion. In a matter of seconds, thousands of thoughts ran through Raymond's mind. I ruined everything. The sequence was perfect, and now everything is out of sync. I'm going to have to pay for this mistake. I broke the contract. The financial situation was already bad, and now it's going to get worse. I'm going to go bankrupt. The company is going to end. 20 years of work thrown in the trash. All of that in seconds. The crowd began to realize that something was wrong. At first, people didn't quite understand it. They thought it was part of the show, that it was planned that way. But little by little, they started to realize the fireworks were forming an unusual pattern. Too many at the same time. The sounds were louder than they should have been. "What's happening?" a man in the crowd asked. "I think something went wrong," his wife replied. People began to feel uneasy. Others started gathering their belongings. There was no panic, but there was concern, that feeling that something wasn't right. And Raymond? Raymond was too close. The control area was relatively close to the fireworks racks. Under normal conditions, it was a safe distance. Raymond knew the protocols. He knew what he was doing, but that was not a normal situation. And worse, the vibration caused the structure that held everything in the correct position to shift. The structure began to tip, to lean. Some fireworks were rising lower than they should have been. Things were getting tense, very tense. But then something strange happened. The fireworks that were rising out of sequence, the random colors, the sparks without order, suddenly began to form something in the sky. In the crowd, in the middle of all that confusion, a man raised his hand and pointed upward. "Look!" he shouted. "Look up there!" The people around him looked and stopped. They stood still, staring at the sky, unable to move, because up there the sparks were forming an image. It wasn't just any image. It wasn't an abstract shape. The sparks from the fireworks, instead of spreading randomly, were forming the silhouette of a woman wearing a mantle, a blue mantle, the right color. "Look, it's the Virgin Mary!" a little girl shouted in the crowd. "Mommy, look, it's the Virgin Mary!" People began to look, one by one, family by family. For those who were there was no doubt about what that image represented. The silhouette of the Virgin Mary formed by fireworks in the sky. It lasted 5 seconds, maybe 7, and many people reported seeing the same shape in the sky. Then the sparks dissipated. The image disappeared. The sky returned to normal. For a few seconds people stood in silence, not knowing what to say. Then a woman began to cry, then another, then another. "Did you see it?" a man asked his wife. "I did," she replied, her voice trembling. "It was her," the man said. "It was," the wife agreed. "I've never seen anything like it." But the emotion didn't last long. When the crowd looked down from the sky and back toward the fireworks platform, they saw something else. The structure that had shifted out of position was pointing directly at where Raymond was, and the fireworks were still continuing their sequence. Raymond was right there, too close. He saw them coming toward him. Sparks! Raymond tried to move, tried to run, but his body didn't obey. You know when you get such a big scare that you freeze? That you can't move? That you're paralyzed? That's what happened to Raymond. He froze. He stood there, watching them coming toward him. Fireworks, deafening pops, one after another. Raymond closed his eyes. He waited for the worst. The fireworks passed close, very close, so close that he felt the heat on his face, felt the wind rushing by, felt the smell right beside him. But none of them hit him. They passed on the left, on the right, above him. Sparks flew all around him, but none of them touched him. Raymond stood there, still, in the middle of all that chaos. Flashes of light, and he was intact. In the crowd, the people who were still emotional from the image of the Virgin Mary in the sky saw what happened. "The fireworks man!" someone shouted. "Is he okay?" Another person yelled. "Can anyone see him?" Confusion took over. Everyone stared, waiting, fearing the worst. The seconds felt eternal. Then the smoke began to clear, and Raymond was standing, in the same place where he had been before, still, motionless, but standing, and unharmed. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. First the image of the Virgin Mary in the sky, now the pyrotechnician standing there without a single scratch. "Is he alive?" someone asked. "How is he okay?" another asked. "I saw it. They went past him on all sides and didn't touch him," a woman shouted. Raymond looked down, looked at his own body. His clothes were scorched by the heat. There were marks of soot, a strong smell, but that was all. No burns, no injuries. Raymond ran his hand over his face, his arm, his chest. Nothing. Raymond couldn't believe it. How was this possible? Raymond stood there, trying to understand, trying to process what had happened, and then he remembered something. At the moment the fireworks were coming toward him, at the moment he froze, waiting for the worst, Raymond felt something strange. He felt something around him, something cold. In the middle of all that heat, Raymond felt something cold around his body, like a cloak, like a barrier, like a protection. At the time, he didn't understand. He was paralyzed. He couldn't think clearly. But now, looking at his intact body, Raymond began to put the pieces together. After that, he went home. His house was simple, small. It had one bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, and a bathroom. Nothing special. He arrived already in the early hours of the morning. He was exhausted. His body ached from fatigue. His head was full of thoughts. Raymond took a shower. The water washed away the soot, the dirt. But it didn't wash away the feeling, that feeling of having been wrapped in something, of having been protected. After the shower, Raymond sat on the bed. He stayed there, still staring into nothing. Then he took the medal that was hanging around his neck, the thin silver chain, the medal of the Virgin Mary, his mother's gift. Raymond looked at the medal for a long time. The image was already worn, from use, from 20 years of Raymond running his finger over it, kissing it before every show. And now, looking at the medal, Raymond understood. The protection had always been there. His mother's faith had always been there, even when Raymond didn't believe, even when Raymond was far from the church, even when Raymond did everything on autopilot, the protection was there. And that night, that 4th of July, the protection manifested itself. Raymond clenched the medal in his hand, closed his eyes, and for the first time in many years, Raymond prayed. It wasn't a memorized prayer. It wasn't an automatic prayer. It was a conversation. A conversation with the Virgin Mary, a conversation with his mother, a conversation with God. Raymond cried while he prayed. He cried like he hadn't cried in a long time. And when he finished, when he opened his eyes, Raymond felt that something had changed inside him. He couldn't explain what, but he knew he wasn't the same anymore. The days went by. The story of the 4th of July spread. The people who were at the event told other people, who told other people, who told other people. The image of the Virgin Mary in the sky, the pyrotechnician who stood in the middle and was not hit. The story kept spreading. In the following weeks, something interesting began to happen. Raymond started receiving calls, many calls. People wanting to hire him to do shows, birthdays, weddings, graduations, corporate parties, special dates. Everyone wanted the pyrotechnician of the 4th of July, the pyrotechnician of the Virgin Mary. "I heard about you," people would say on the phone. "I want to hire you for my event." Raymond was surprised every time. "You know what happened, right?" he would ask. "The show went wrong. There was a failure." "We know," people replied, "but we also know what happened afterward." Raymond didn't know what to say. The calls kept coming, one after another, day after day. In just a few weeks, Raymond had a full schedule, work for the entire year, more than he could handle. The debts he had, they were paid off little by little, one by one. The financial situation that had been difficult, it improved a lot. Raymond became the most sought-after pyrotechnician, not because of his skill, not because of the quality of the shows, but because of that night, because of that 4th of July, because of what happened in the sky and what happened to him. People wanted a piece of that. They wanted to be close to someone who had lived through that. And Raymond? Raymond kept doing his work, show after show, event after event. But now it was different. Now, before every show, when Raymond kissed the medal of the Virgin Mary, he no longer did it on autopilot. Now he stopped, closed his eyes, and prayed for real. "Protection for me and for the people who are here," Raymond would say. "Thank you. Thank you for never giving up on me." And every show for Raymond became a prayer in the form of fireworks. Raymond started going back to church every Sunday without fail. At first it was strange. He hadn't gone in so many years that he barely remembered how it worked, when to stand, when to sit, when to kneel. But little by little, he got used to it. He began to feel at home. Raymond became part of the community. He met people, made friends, took part in events, things he had never done before, things he thought weren't for him, but now they were. 1 year later, another July 4th arrived. Raymond was hired again for the city show, the same event, the same place, the same crowd. On the day of the show, Raymond arrived early. He set everything up carefully, checked the equipment 3 times. When the sun began to set, Raymond went to the control area. He stood there alone, looking at the sky as it darkened. Then he took the medal of the Virgin Mary from inside his shirt. He looked at it for a moment. The image was almost impossible to see by then. But Raymond knew what was there. He knew who was there. He kissed the medal of the Virgin Mary. "Protection for me and for the people who are here," Raymond said, as always. "Thank you for another year. Thank you for everything." Then he put the medal away again and gave the command to start the show. Beautiful, colorful, perfectly synchronized. The crowd made that sound of awe, couples holding each other, families together. Raymond looked up at the sky, at the colors lighting up the night. And he smiled. He was no longer the same Raymond from a year before. He was no longer the man who did everything on autopilot, who had faith but didn't practice it, who was distant from everything. Now it was different. Now Raymond understood. His mother had always known. The medal had always worked. The protection had always been there. He just needed to open his eyes to see it. And that night, watching the fireworks rise into the sky, Raymond said a silent prayer of gratitude, of faith, of love. Sometimes we prepare everything perfectly, program every detail, plan every moment, and then something goes wrong. The fireworks activated at the wrong time. The sequence came out of order. But it's exactly in that chaos that sometimes the most beautiful thing happens, an image in the sky that no one planned, a mantle of protection that no one expected, a faith that is reborn when everything seemed lost. Raymond worked his whole life with fireworks, but it took one display going wrong to awaken something inside him. Something his mother planted a long time ago, something that was dormant, waiting for the right moment, something called faith. Before we finish, I want to invite you to be part of our prayer community for the Virgin Mary, a space of faith and hope where people from all over the world come together to pray and share graces they have received. If you feel in your heart the desire to be part of this chain of prayer, click below and become a member of the channel today and come pray with us. And look, if you made it this far, all the way to the end of Raymond's story, do one thing for me, write in the comments, "Blue Mantle," because that's what protected him that night. I want to see how many hearts this story truly reached, and every time I read "Blue Mantle" in the comments, I'll know that one more person believes that miracles of the Virgin Mary still happen. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Write in the comments about a miracle you have witnessed or experienced, and share this video with someone who needs to renew their hope today. May the Virgin Mary continue blessing and protecting you and your family. Amen.